The heater on the passenger side of County Plow 47 had been broken for 6 years. I never fixed it because nobody ever rode with me. Then a woman from Chicago climbed into that seat at 5 in the morning, wrapped in my spare blanket, furious with me. She rode with me all winter. I still have not fixed the heater. But before her there was her mother, and before her mother there was a Tuesday in January that started the way 1,100 other Tuesdays had started, with Charlene Boyd's voice coming through the radio while my windshield was still fogged. 47, she said. You breathing out there, define breathing char. You're going out to Birch Hollow first. Don't tell me you're not. I go where the snow is. You go to Birch Hollow. 11 years running, Raymond. One of these days, Doug Kessler is going to look at the mileage logs and do arithmetic. Doug's already asked. I know he asked. I was on the line. You told him it was 4.2 miles, and then you hung up on the man. I did not hang up. I ended the transmission. That's a beautiful distinction, she said, and I could hear her grinning through 61 years of cigarettes and county coffee. You're a poet, 47. Here is the thing I never explained to Doug, and never explained to Char, and never explained to anybody in the 912 people who live in Sable Creek. A road commission ranks its routes. State trunk lines go first because the state pays for them. School bus routes go second because there are children standing at the ends of driveways at 6:15 in the morning. Then subdivisions, then connectors, then everything else. Dead-end roads with fewer than 5 occupied houses sit at the bottom of the list, and they sit there legally, and nobody at the county is doing anything wrong when they leave them until last. Birch Hollow Road was last on the county's list. It had been first on mine since the winter I turned 34. I dropped the blade at the mouth of it at 4:51 that morning. 12 inches down, whined out of the northwest temperature, reading 9 below on the dash and lying about it. The road climbs a 9% grade at mile 2, which is nothing in July and is a wall in January, and I was thinking about that grade and about whether the sander was throwing right when I came around the bend at 5:10. There was a brown Buick nose down in the ditch, driver's door hanging wide open. The dome light was still on. I have replayed the next 90 seconds more times than I have replayed anything in my life. I remember shoving the gear shift into neutral. I remember my boot going out into snow that came up over my knee. I remember shouting her name into that wind and hearing absolutely nothing come back, and I remember my hands starting to shake so hard I could not work the flashlight switch on the first try or the second. I found her 60 yards up the driveway. She had gotten out of that car and started walking toward her own house, and she had made it 60 yards. Mrs. Vance, I said. Mrs. Vance, it's Ray Callahan, don't you move. She opened her eyes. Her lips had gone a color I don't have a name for, and her chin was trembling, and she looked up at me from the snow and said, plain as a woman handing back a library book, Raymond, you are going to be late for the school routes. Something in my chest cinched down so hard I could not get air behind it. I said, ma'am, the school routes can wait. They cannot, she said. There are children. Then I'm going to be late, I told her, and I got my arms under her. She weighed nothing. That's what undid me. Nora Vance had been the school librarian in that county for 32 years, and she had made grown men put books back in the right place, and she weighed absolutely nothing. I carried her to the truck and got her up into the passenger seat, and that is the seat with the broken heater, and I remember apologizing to her about it out loud like a fool. She said, I have my own coat, Raymond. I pulled the spare blanket out from behind the bench and wrapped her in it anyway, twice around, and tucked it under her feet. Then I got on the radio. Char, I said, and my voice came apart in the middle of her name. She heard it. She heard it instantly. Talk to me, 47. Nora Vance, Birch Hollow. She's been down in the snow I don't know how long. She's talking. Char, she's talking, but her hands are white all the way up past the wrist. Ambulance is rolling, Char said, and every ounce of the joking had gone out of her. Ray, listen to me. They are not getting up that grade. You know they're not. Then I'll bring her down. Meet them at the junction of County Road 6. Go slow. Go slow, honey. I put the blade down and I brought her 4.2 miles out, and the whole way Nora kept apologizing to me. That is a true thing about that woman that people ought to know. She lay there wrapped in a plow blanket with her wrist broken in 2 places, and she apologized to me for the trouble, and every time she did it my eyes stung worse, and I kept telling her to hush, and she kept not hushing. Kenny Sowards met us at the junction with the ambulance doors already open. He got a core temperature on her in the back of that rig, and I heard him say 94.1 to his partner, and I heard the partner say, mild, we're okay, mild. Kenny stuck his head out. Ray, we need her medication list. Can you get into the house? The back door wasn't locked. It has never been locked. I found the list in a drawer, and while I was standing in that kitchen at 5:40 in the morning, I saw two other things. The first was an index card taped to the refrigerator door in careful librarian handwriting. It said Dana, and then a cell number with a Chicago area code. The second was in her coat pocket when I brought the coat out to the ambulance. A white paper pharmacy bag folded over twice from the drugstore in town. It was empty. She had driven 6 miles into a storm to fill a blood pressure prescription, and the pharmacy had closed early because of the weather, and she had turned around and come home with nothing. I called the Chicago number from the parking lot at Munson in Traverse City at 7:22. She picked up on the second ring. Behind her, I could hear an emergency department going full tilt. "Is this Dana Vance?" "This is she. Who's calling?" "My name is Ray Callahan. I plow your mother's road." She did not scream. She did something worse. Her voice dropped into a flat professional register and she started firing. "What's her core temp? What's her pressure? Is she oriented ×3? Did she strike her head?" 94.1, I said. She was talking. Talking how? Talking like herself or just talking? Like herself, I said. She told me I'd be late for the school routes. There was a sound on that line then that I would give a year of my life not to have heard. Not a sob. Something smaller and worse, like a woman getting hit in the sternum. "How long was she outside?" she said. "They don't know yet." "Then how long between the last time you drove that road and the time you found her?" I stood in that parking lot in 9 Below with my hand shaking around the phone. 6 o'clock the night before, I said. Nobody said anything for 4 full seconds. Then she said, "I'm getting in the car," and the line went dead. I sat in the truck for a while. Then Char came up on the radio and her voice was doing something careful. 47, she said. "The daughter just called dispatch." "I know. I talked to her. She called us after Honey. She asked for the name of the driver who found her mother." "What'd you tell her?" "I told her," Char said. "Ray, she's already on the road. 7 hours, 40 minutes in a whiteout, and she asked me twice how to spell Callahan." I finished the school routes 90 minutes late that morning, and Doug Kessler did not say one word about it over the radio, which worried me more than hollering would have. Char did the hollering for him. 47, you eat anything today? I had coffee. Coffee is not food, Raymond. Coffee is a personality trait. I'm fine, Char. You are not fine. You've keyed this mic 4 times in 6 hours and said nothing. That's not a man who's fine, that's a man rehearsing. She was right, and I hated that she was right. And at 6 that evening, I drove the 41 minutes back to Munson in Traverse City because Nora Vance had asked Kenny Sowards to ask me to bring her reading glasses and her purse from the kitchen table. She had specified the purse. She had specified that her checkbook was in it and that she intended to pay somebody for something. That woman had 2 broken bones in her wrist, and she was worried about settling accounts. 3rd floor, room 311. She was propped up with an IV line in the back of her good hand and a cast from her knuckles to her elbow, and when she saw me in the doorway, her chin started going and she pressed her lips together hard to stop it. "Raymond," she said, "I have made an absolute spectacle of myself. You went to get your medicine. I went to get my medicine and I put my car in a ditch like a teenager. Don't you dare tell Charlene Boyd. Char dispatched the ambulance, ma'am." Nora closed her eyes. "Then the whole county knows. The whole county's been calling the desk downstairs since noon. Pastor Ellis brought a ham. To a hospital, he seemed committed to it." She laughed, and then the laugh turned into something wet in the middle, and her eyes spilled over, and she got one hand up to cover them, and the IV line pulled, and I sat down fast in the vinyl chair beside the bed so she wouldn't have to look at me while she did it. "I'm sorry," she said into her palm. "You keep saying that. I keep meaning it." At 7:40, a woman came down that hallway, walking so fast the nurse at the station stood up. She had black hair pulled back low and a hospital badge still clipped to her belt from a shift 11 hours and 400 miles behind her, and her coat was soaked through to the shoulders, and there was snow packed in the treads of her boots that had not started melting yet. She went past me like I was furniture. "Mom, Dana Marie Nora said you drove." "Of course I drove. Are you dizzy? Any headache? Squeeze my fingers. Squeeze. Harder. Okay. Follow my finger. Don't move your head. Dana, honey, follow my finger." Nora followed her finger. Dana held it up there another second, then set her hand down on the blanket and stood very still at the rail, and I watched the whole back of that woman start to shake. She got it under control in about 4 seconds. I have never seen anybody put themselves back together that fast. Then she turned around. "You're Callahan, Ray," I said, and stood up. She looked at my jacket, at the county patch on the shoulder, at the hat in my hands. What time did you find my mother? 5:10. And what time did you drive that road before that? 6 o'clock the night before, ma'am. Don't call me ma'am. 11 hours. Yes. She nodded slow, and her jaw was working. There is a thing people do when they want to scream in a building where screaming is not allowed, and she was doing it. Do you know what happens to a 73-year-old woman at 94 degrees, she said. Do you know what happens to the ones who don't get found? Because I do. I have signed the paperwork on 4 of them. 4 in one department in one city where there are people on every corner. Dana said, Nora, I'm asking him a question. You are prosecuting him. I could have said a lot of things standing in that hallway. I could have told her that Birch Hollow is at the bottom of the county's list by ordinance and that the ordinance is not mine. I could have told her I had gone up that road first for 11 straight winters out of turn on my own hour, and that no other driver in that garage would have been within 4 hours of finding her mother at all. I did not say any of it. I do not entirely know why. Part of it was that my hands had started shaking again and I did not trust my mouth. So I said 11 hours is right, and I'll be up there at 4 tomorrow morning. Dana's mouth opened, and then it stayed open and something went out of her shoulders. That's it, she said. That's your defense. It's not a defense. It's when I'll be there. She stared at me for a good long while. Behind her, Nora Vance had gotten a look on her face that I did not have the sense to be frightened of yet. Raymond drove her out 4 miles in the plow, Nora said pleasantly. The ambulance could not get up the grade. He wrapped me in a blanket out of his truck and he apologized to me because the heater on that side is broken. Mom, he carried me 60 yards, Dana. Dana turned back to me. The fury was still all over her face, but there was something underneath it now running the other direction, and she did not know what to do with it either. 60 yards, she said. She's not heavy. That is not the point, she said, and her voice cracked clean in half on the word point, and she pressed the back of her wrist against her mouth and turned toward the window. I let myself out. Down in the parking lot, the snow had quit, and it had gone bitter still. The kind of cold that stops the wind because even the wind has had enough. Her Honda was parked crooked across 2 spaces with a spray of dirty ice frozen up the whole passenger side, and when I walked past the rear wheel, I stopped. Summer tires. All 4. A woman drives 7 hours and 40 minutes through a whiteout on summer tires, and the only reason she is upright is that she is stubborn. I was still crouched there with my hand on the tread when headlights swung across me. Doug Kessler got out of the county Silverado in his good coat, which meant he had come from a meeting, which meant he had not come to ask about my day. Ray. Doug. He held out a manila envelope. He did not let go of it right away. I need you to read this tonight, he said, and not at the garage. Read it at home. I read it at my kitchen table with my boots still on because Doug Kessler had told me to read it at home, and I have never once in my life been able to disobey a direct instruction from that man. 11 pages. The first 10 were budget. Page 11 was a resolution. The Wexler County Road Commission proposed to reclassify Birch Hollow Road from an all-season county road to a seasonal road effective the following October. In Michigan, that word means exactly one thing. A seasonal road is a road the county does not maintain in winter. No plow, no sand, no salt from the first heavy snow until the spring thaw. It is legal, it is common, and there are hundreds of miles of them in the northern counties, and every one of them has a sign at the mouth of it telling you that you are on your own. 3 occupied structures on Birch Hollow. 2 of them summer cottages closed and shuttered since the 2nd week of October. $9,200 a season for one house. Stapled to the back was a yellow sticky note in Doug's block printing. Public notice must be posted at the road terminus 45 days prior. Vote is first Thursday in March. You're the route driver, Ray. They'll want you to speak. I called him at 9 that night. Doug, I said, you want me to nail it to the pole myself. I want somebody to nail it to the pole, and you're the only one who goes up there. Then send Sowards. Send a summer kid. The law says 45 days. Ray and I have got a commission attorney who counts them on a calendar. He blew out a breath. I fought this for 2 years. You know I fought it, I know. I put $130,000 of seasonal money into that budget, and I got 109. Something comes off the list. Tell me what comes off instead, and I will take it to them Thursday. I did not have an answer for that. I have never had an answer for that. That is the part nobody understands about Doug Kessler. He is not a villain. He is a decent man holding a spreadsheet that does not add up, and the spreadsheet does not care who lives at the end of the road. I posted it Wednesday afternoon. 4-inch bolts laminated Sheet County Post at the mouth of Birch Hollow, and I was driving the last bolt when a silver Honda came around the bend behind me and stopped so hard it slid. She got out without her coat zipped. "What is that, Miss Vance? What is that on the pole?" "It's a notice of a proposed reclassification." She read it. It takes about 40 seconds to read, and she read it in 20 the way people read who have been reading charts under fluorescent lights for 16 years, and I watched the color come up her neck. "Seasonal," she said. "Seasonal means what? Means the county stops plowing it in winter." "Stops." "Yes." She turned and looked up the road at the grade at 4 1/5 miles of it at her mother's mailbox, somewhere past the second bend. "My mother is in a hospital bed in Traverse City right now because you people got to that road 11 hours late," she said, and her voice was climbing and her hands were out at her sides, shaking hard enough that I could see it from 6 feet away. "And your county's answer is to stop coming at all. It's a proposal. There's a vote." "Oh, there's a vote. Well, that's fine then. That's democracy. Miss Vance, do not." She stepped in closer, and she was crying by then, furious about it, wiping at her face with the heel of her hand like the tears were an insult somebody had handed her. "You have done this job 11 years. 11 years. And you stood there in that hallway and you did not defend yourself one time, and now I'm looking at your handwriting on the bolts. I did not put it on the pole because I agreed with it. Then why is it on the pole, Ray?" It was the first time she used my name. "Because the statute requires 45 days of public notice at the terminus of the affected road," I said, "and if it does not go up today, it goes up Friday, and Friday is a day later, and I would rather it be my hands than somebody's who has never met her." Her mouth twisted. She turned away from me and walked 4 steps toward her car and stopped and stood there in 15 below with her coat still unzipped, breathing hard. I got in the truck. Then I got back out. "Your tires are wrong," I said. She turned around. "What all for? Those are summer tires. You drove 7 hours and 40 minutes through a whiteout on summer tires." "I know what I drove on. There's a grade at mile 2 that runs 9%. You will not get up at Thursday and you will not get down at Friday, and when you go off it, you will not be 60 yards from a house. Are you finished? Discount Tire in Traverse City opens at 8. Ask for the Blizzacs, not the All Seasons. Tell them Callahan sent you, and they'll mount them while you wait." She got in her car and left me standing there. At 7 the next morning, her Honda was in the lot at Dorsey's with 4 black sidewall snow tires on it and a rack of tire irons still visible through the back window. She was at the counter. There are 11 stools at Dorsey's, and she was on the 3rd one, and she did not look up when the bell went. I sat down 2 stools away. Marla poured me coffee without asking and went off to burn something. "They opened at 8, Dana said to the counter. "I was in the lot at 7:15. "That sounds right." The kid at the desk said Callahan sent me, and then he said out loud in front of 9 people, "Oh, the one who pulled Mrs. Vance out of the ditch. Small county." She turned her head then. Her eyes were red-rimmed and swollen, and she had not slept, and she looked at me for a second, and something in her face came loose. "I owe you an apology," she said. "You do not." "I do. I stood in a hospital hallway, and I told a man who carried my mother 60 yards that he got there 11 hours late." She pressed her lips together hard. "My mother called me the night before, Ray. Tuesday the night before. I was in a trauma bay, and I saw her name come up on my phone, and I let it go. 'Miss Vance Dana.' 'Dana,' I said." She wrapped both hands around her mug like she could not get warm, and her chin was going, and she got it stopped. "I filed for leave this morning," she said. "Family Medical Leave Act. 12 weeks is the maximum, but I'm taking 7 unpaid to care for a parent." My charge nurse cried. My mortgage did not. 7 weeks, I said. 7 weeks. Which puts me here through the first Thursday in March, which I would like you to know was not an accident. She finally lifted her head and looked straight at me. "What time do you leave in the morning?" 4:35, I told her. So the first morning she was standing at the end of her mother's driveway at 4:35, and I about put the truck in the ditch myself. "Get in," I said. "Mind the step, it's iced." She climbed up. Then she sat there for about a mile and a half with her arms crossed and her breath coming out white. "Ray." "Yeah. Is the heat on in this thing, driver's side?" She turned her head very slowly. "And the passenger side broke in 19, I said. "Blower motor. There's a blanket behind the bench." She got it out and wrapped up in it and sat there like a woman who had been personally wronged by the state of Michigan. 6 years, she said. "Nobody rides with me." That is the saddest sentence I have ever heard a man say about a heater. That was the first morning. By the 4th morning, there were 2 blankets behind the bench, and I never said a word about the second one, and neither did she. And she used it every single day until April. Here is what I learned in that cab. You can say anything to somebody at 5 in the morning as long as you are both looking out the same windshield. Can I ask you something, she said somewhere in the second week. Ask. Why is your left shoulder lower than your right? Fell off a grain elevator when I was 22. Broke the collarbone in 3 spots and they set it wrong in Cadillac. Did it heal wrong or set wrong, set wrong? She made a noise like a woman biting a nail in half. That's malpractice, that's 1999. She laughed then, an actual laugh, and it went up into the corners of that cab, and it did something to my chest that I did not have any business feeling at 5 in the morning at 46 years old. You were married, she said a few days after. 9 years divorced. What happened? Sheila wanted to go, I said. Grand Rapids. She had a sister there and a job lined up, and she asked me twice. And you said no. I said not yet, twice. Dana was quiet for about 100 yards. That's worse, she said gently. I know it. What about you, I said. Kyle Reyes, 6 years. He is not a bad man, Ray, that's the irritating part. He takes Miles 2 weekends a month, he pays what he's supposed to. He remembers the birthday. He just was not there, ever. I would come off a 14-hour shift and he'd ask what was for dinner. Miles is your boy. Miles is 14 and he can rebuild a carburetor and he will not say 4 words to me at breakfast. He sounds like good company. He's the best person I know, she said, and her voice went thin and she looked hard out her window at nothing. Miles came up for the February break the week Chicago schools take off, and Kyle traded his weekend without an argument, which Dana said out loud twice like she was testing whether it was true. The kid shook my hand. 14 years old, shook my hand like a banker. Mr. Callahan, Ray. He looked at his mother. She shrugged. Ray, he said, and something went easy in his shoulders. He came out on the route Thursday and Friday, and he did not say 4 words to Dana at breakfast. And he said about 900 to me about hydraulics. The power went out the following Tuesday at 6:20 in the evening. Ice on the lines out past the substation, and Consumers Energy had crews on it, but when a line goes down on a dead-end road in Wexler County in February, you are looking at 5 hours minimum, and everybody knows it. I had a generator and 200 feet of cord, and I was in the driveway inside 20 minutes. Nora met me at the door with a flashlight cast and all. Raymond Callahan, it is 6:40 at night. Yes, ma'am. Come in and shut that door, you're heating the entire county. There is a wood stove in that front room that Gordon Vance put in himself in 1988, and by 7 o'clock it was throwing enough heat that Miles had stripped down to a t-shirt and was lying on the floor in front of it with a flashlight and a busted lantern in pieces. Dana made grilled cheese on the top of the wood stove. 4 sandwiches, cast iron pan, no electricity, and she was pleased with herself in a way I had not seen once in 3 weeks. Mom, Miles said, did you know there's a spring in here the size of an eyelash? Do not lose it in my rug. Nora sat in the good chair with her cast propped on a pillow and ran that room like a woman conducting an orchestra. She got Miles talking about the lantern. She got me talking about my father's shop. Then at 8:45, in the middle of a perfectly good conversation, she announced she was exhausted. Mother Dana said, it's 8:45. I have had a very taxing convalescence. You've had a nap and a ham sandwich. Miles, Nora said, would you carry my book upstairs and see that my lamp works? Assuming your mother's friend has restored electricity to that portion of the house. The kid caught it. I watched a 14-year-old boy catch it in real time and decide to play along out of sheer respect for the craft. Yes, ma'am, he said. They went. The stairs creaked. A door shut. Then another door shut upstairs harder than it needed to. Dana put her face in both hands. She is not subtle, she said. She was a librarian 32 years. Subtle's for people who don't know the Dewey Decimal System. Dana laughed so hard she had to put her hand on the table. We stepped out on the porch to shut the generator down at 9:30. Lights had come back on down the road about 10 minutes prior, and you could see the Henderson's cottage floodlight blazing away over an empty summer house. It had stopped snowing. That is the thing I remember most clearly. Everybody thinks these things happen in the snow. It was dead clear and about 8 above, and you could see the whole spine of the sky. She had my second blanket around her shoulders. She'd walked out with it without thinking about it. Ray, she said. Yeah, I have to say this fast or I'm not going to say it. She was already crying and mad about it, wiping at her eye with her thumb. 3 weeks ago I hated you. I needed to hate somebody, and you were standing there with a county patch on your arm, and you let me do it. You just stood there and let me do it. Dana. And now I get up at 4:15 in the morning, and I am not doing it for my mother, and I have been lying to myself about that for 11 days. My hands were shaking. 46 years old, standing on a porch. 9 days, I said. I've been keeping track since the second blanket. She made a sound halfway between a laugh and a sob, and she grabbed a fistful of my jacket and she pulled. Sable Creek has 912 people and one road going through it, and my truck was parked at Nora Vance's house until 10 o'clock on a Tuesday night. By Thursday morning, Char had it. 47. Go ahead, Char. You are aware that Marla Dorsey saw your truck. I'm aware that Marla Dorsey sees everything. She said, and I want you to know I am quoting, that it was there past 10 and the generator was off by 9:30, so what exactly was running for that last half hour? I keyed the mic and let dead air go out over Wexler County for a solid 3 seconds. Raymond Callahan. The grade at mile 2 is drifting bad, Char. I'm going to want the wing plow. You are a coward, she said, delighted, and I could hear her chair creak all the way from town. That is what it is like. You cannot buy a gallon of milk in that town without 4 people knowing your business, and I had spent 9 years being the man they felt gently sorry for, and now I was the man they were entertained by. I could not decide which was worse, and I did not care much either way because Dana Vance was in my passenger seat every morning at 4:35 with my blanket around her shoulders, and one morning at mile 3 she reached over without saying anything about it and put her hand flat on the seat beside the shifter, and I put mine next to hers, and neither one of us mentioned it, and neither one of us moved. We were careful about the kid for about 6 days. Then Miles came downstairs on a Saturday, opened the cupboard, and set out 3 mugs. He did not announce it. He did not look at either of us. He just put out 3. Dana went absolutely still at the counter with the coffee pot in her hand. Miles, she said. Yeah, are you... She started over. Is this okay with you? Is what okay? Do not do that. Look at me. He turned around. That kid has his mother's eyes and about 4% of her volume. Mom, he said, you laugh now. Dana's mouth opened. You didn't in Chicago. You did the thing where you go ha, like a word. He shrugged one shoulder. It's fine. He's fine. Can I take the truck to the hardware store? I need a punch set. You are 14 years old. Ray said I could drive it in the pit lot behind the garage. Ray did not say that, I said. Ray said it Tuesday. I said you could sit in it Tuesday. The kid grinned at his coffee and did not look up, and Dana turned toward the window with her hand over her mouth and her shoulders going, and when she turned back around, her eyes were streaming and she was laughing at the same time, and she waved me off before I could say a word. Nothing, she said. Don't. Nothing. That was the last good week for a while. Nora asked me over on a Wednesday when Dana had taken Miles down to Traverse City for new boots. She had the coffee already poured, which is how I should have known. Raymond, I want to hire you. Ma'am Gordon's Tools, the shop out back. There is a Delta table, saw a drill press, a bandsaw, 4 toolboxes of hand tools, and a great deal of it has not been touched in 11 years. I want it sold, and I want you to sell it because you will not let anybody steal from me. I set my cup down. Mrs. Vance, I'd do that for nothing. You will take 10% or I will call a stranger from the classifieds. I'll take nothing and you'll like it. She smiled at me, and then the smile got tired around the edges. She was sitting very straight the way she always sat, cast in her lap. Can I ask what it's for? I said. I have expenses, you've got the house. The house is a Bill Raymond, not a bank. Ma'am, forgive me. If you're looking at any kind of assisted living, there's programs. Medicaid pays for it, and I know it's a rotten thing to ask for, but people do. Her whole face closed. It was the fastest thing I have ever seen happen to a person. One second I was talking to Nora Vance, and the next second I was talking to a woman behind a door. I am not eligible, she said. For what? Raymond. She folded her good hand over the cast. There is one more thing, and it is the important thing. Dana is not to know about the tools. Not until they're gone. Mrs. Vance. She has a way of taking things and making them about a failure of hers, and she has had enough of those. I am asking you. I should have said no. I have gone over it about 900 times since, and every single time I get to that kitchen and I say no, and every single time in real life I said yes, ma'am. I moved it in 2 trips on the 21st and 22nd of February. Delta contractor saw, and the drill press went to a cabinet outfit in Kalkaska. The bandsaw and 3 of the 4 toolboxes went to a man in Gaylord who restores fishing boats and who cried a little over a set of Stanley chisels. I priced everything against completed listings I got paid in cash and cashier's checks, and I brought Nora Vance $2,800 and an itemized list on notebook paper. She kept the list. She said she'd want it for her records. Dana found out on the 24th at 4 in the afternoon when she went out to the shop to look for a snow shovel. I was in the driveway with the truck running. She came out that back door and across that yard, and I have seen a lot of people angry in my life, and none of them ever looked like that. Where is my father's saw? Dana. Where is his saw, Ray? Where's the bench? She stopped and put both hands on top of her head and turned all the way around in a circle in the snow. There's a rectangle. There's a clean rectangle on the floor where the drill press was, and there is dust all around it. Your mother asked me to sell them. She asked you. 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks. Her voice went up so high it broke. 3 weeks, and you have been in my kitchen, and you have been in my... She cut herself off and pressed the back of her fist against her mouth, and she was crying now, ugly and furious. That was my father's shop. He died in that chair by the window, and I have not been able to make myself go in there since, and you emptied it in 2 days. She asked me not to tell you, and you agreed. Yes. Why? Because she asked me like it cost her something. Dana stood there in the snow in her socks. She had come out in her socks and had not noticed. Who are you in this, she said. I did not have an answer for her. Not one. And while I was standing there trying to find one, the back door opened and Nora Vance came out onto that step with her cast held against her chest and said, Dana Marie, come inside, I have something I have to tell you. I stayed on the step. I had every intention of staying on the step, Raymond Nora said without turning around. You as well. You are in this now. The kitchen was too warm. She sat down at the head of her own table and arranged the cast in her lap and waited. And Dana sat the way you sit when your legs quit rather than when you decide to. 3 years ago you lost your position at Mercy, Nora said. That was a restructuring. It was a layoff and you were out 11 weeks and then took a job paying $4 an hour less. You were 61 days behind on the mortgage in October. Dana's chin came up. That got resolved. Nora looked at her. It got resolved, Dana said slower. Mom, there was a state hardship deferment. Illinois had a fund. The servicer called me and said my account had been brought current under what program? She stopped. The woman on the phone said, she said your account was current. That is all she said because that is all she was permitted to say and because I asked her not to say more. Nobody made a sound for 2 seconds. I have never heard a refrigerator that loud in my life. No, Dana said. 14 months. No. The arrears. The reinstatement fee. Both installments of the property tax. And the furnace, Dana, when it went out in January and you told me on the telephone that you and Miles were sleeping in the front room with a space heater and that it was fine and you would handle it in the spring. Nora's voice never once went up. That is the only time I have hung up on you. I hung up on my own daughter and called a heating company in Berwyn. Dana had both hands over her mouth. How much, she said behind them. That is not how much. Nora opened the sideboard drawer where she has kept the good scissors since before I was born and took out a notebook. Blue cover, 99 cents at any drugstore in America. She slid it across. I watched Dana go down the first page with one finger. Watched the finger stop. Watched her flip forward and forward to the back where Nora had ruled a line and totaled it in her librarian's hand. 34,200, Dana said. And some change. 34,200. Yes. Dana got up so fast the chair went over backward and she did not pick it up. She stood there shaking from the shoulders down and then she made a raw sound and pressed the notebook flat against her chest like she was trying to hold something inside her ribs. That was Dad's insurance. That's all you had. There was $61,000, Nora said. There is $9,140 now. $9,140. Dana turned and looked at me and did not see me at all. She had the look nurses get when the monitor starts telling them a story they do not want. Mom, she said, assisted living in this state is $4,500 a month. Your Social Security is $1,380. I am aware of both figures. Then you apply for Medicaid. Her voice cracked open. You apply, you spend down, that is what it is for. That is literally what it is. She stopped. I watched it land on her. 16 years, a nurse, half of it in a Cook County emergency department, and she had sat with 100 families and explained this exact thing to them, and now she was standing in her mother's kitchen with a 99-cent notebook in her hands. The look back, she said. Yes, said Nora. I said I did not know what they were talking about. Dana turned to me and talked fast the way she does, tears running down her face the whole time and no pause to deal with them. 5 years, she said. Apply for Medicaid long-term care and they audit 60 months of your finances. Every dollar you gave away in that window gets added up and divided by the state's average monthly cost of care, and that is how many months they refuse to pay for you. A penalty period. It is built to stop people hiding money in their kids' names before they walk into a nursing home. She pressed her wrist to her eyes. It is not built for a 73-year-old woman paying her daughter's furnace bill. The statute does not make that distinction, Nora said. I checked twice with 2 different people. So you're penalized. Roughly 3.5 months at the current divisor. That's $15,000. You have 9. And the 9 goes first because you have to spend down before you can even apply, and then you're in the penalty with nothing. Yes, said Nora. And you have known this the entire time. Since November. Dana set the notebook down very gently, like it might go off. You let me stand in that hospital and call you stubborn. You let me make a list, Mom. I put a list of facilities on your nightstand. I read it. You let me think it was pride. It was pride, Nora said. And for the first time, her voice did something. It caught, and she pushed her chin up against it, and her eyes went bright and spilled, and she could not wipe them with the cast, so they simply ran down her face while she sat perfectly upright at the head of her own table. What else was I supposed to be? You had a child in a house with no furnace. What was the alternative, Dana, that I keep my money and let my grandson sleep in his coat? Dana went down on her knees beside that chair and put her head in her mother's lap and came apart entirely. Nora got her good hand into her daughter's hair and held on. Thank you, sweetheart, she said, which is what that woman says when a conversation is over, and I finally understood it is not a dismissal and never was. It is what she says when the alternative is saying something she cannot survive saying. I was already at the door when Dana lifted her head. Her face was ruined and her breath came in pieces, and she looked straight across that kitchen at me. You knew, she said. Every honest word was right there. No. She told me she was not eligible and shut the door on it, and I let her. What came out of my mouth was, she had her reasons. Dana got up off that floor. Get out of my mother's house, she said. She did not ride with me for 8 days. I know it was 8 because I counted, and because on the 4th one Char asked me over the radio if I was ill, and on the 6th one she quit asking which was worse. The vote was the first Thursday in March, 7 o'clock in the basement of the township hall where they also hold the pancake breakfast. Doug found me by the coffee urn at 10 till. Ray, they're going to call you up. I know it. You don't have to say a thing beyond the conditions of the road. Snow load drift grade. Facts. Doug. He rubbed his hand down his face. Yeah. Is there any number you can move? I moved every number I have twice. He looked at me and he looked wretched. If I keep Birch Hollow, I take 2 school bus routes off Winter Sand. That's the trade. That is the actual trade, and I am telling you as a friend, do not make me say that out loud in front of these people. 19 folks in folding chairs. Nora was in the second row with her cast in a sling and her chin up like she was at a recital. Dana sat beside her and did not turn around when I came in. They called me at 20 after. Mr. Callahan, said the chairman. You're the route driver. How's that road run in February? I stood up and I put my hands on the back of the chair in front of me because they had started to shake. 9% grade at mile 2, I said. It drifts from the northwest and it fills in behind you. You can plow it at 5 in the morning and by 9 there's a foot back in the cut. To hold it open in a bad week, I'd be up at 3 times a day. 3 times. Yes, sir. And the sand truck won't hold the grade above about 6 inches. It slides. The chairman wrote something down. Thank you. That was all of it. 4 questions. I did not lie and I did not soften one word, and I sat back down and they voted 11 minutes later 5-2. Nora Vance stood up before the gavel finished and walked out of that room with her back straight enough to iron on. I caught up to them in the lot. It was maybe 5 above and the whole parking lot had a skin of ice over it that cracked under your boots. Dana was already at her mother's passenger door. Dana. She turned around and her eyes were swollen half shut from 8 days of it, and her breath was going fast and white. You could have lied, she said. Yes. You could have said it was a normal road. You could have said the grade holds fine. Who in that room would have known her voice was climbing and breaking? Nobody drives it. Nobody but you. You could have opened your mouth and saved her house, and you got up there and you handed them the drift depth. Yes. Why? My father's name was Dale Callahan, I said. She stopped. Her mouth was still open around the next thing she was going to throw at me. He had this job, 26 years. He had it before me, and I got it because he had it. I could hear my own voice going wrong, and I could not do a thing about it. 12 years ago, on the 9th of February, he took the truck up Birch Hollow at 4 in the morning, and he had a stroke at mile 3. Ray. The truck went over into the bank and the engine kept running, so on the radio it looked like a driver taking his time. Nobody logs a dead-end road. Nobody was coming up behind him because nobody ever comes up behind you on a dead-end road. She had both hands over her mouth. 6 hours, I said. He was alive for some of it. The medical examiner would not tell me how much of it, and I have asked twice. Oh my God. So I go up there first. Every storm 11 years out of turn on county fuel, and Doug Kessler has known it since about the second winter and has never once written me up for it. And Tuesday I found your mother 60 yards from her door, and every man in that garage would have found her at 9 or 10 or never. Ray. So I am not going to stand in a township basement and lie about that road, I said, and my eyes had gone hot and I let them. Because a lie is how you get somebody left up there. A lie is exactly how it happens. She crossed that ice so fast she nearly went down on it. She got both hands into the front of my coat, and she was sobbing the ugly kind, the kind that comes up out of your gut, and I got my arms around her, and she put her whole face into my collar and stayed there. 8 days, she said into my chest. 8 days, and you had that in you the whole time. I'm sorry about what I said in the kitchen. Stop. I should have told you no. I should have said no, I didn't know. Ray, stop. She pulled back far enough to look up at me. Her face was a wreck. My mother spent $34,000 and let me call her stubborn for 4 months. She is going to do this to us for the rest of her life. Both of us. Do you understand what I'm telling you? I understand it, then say something else. Anything else, please. My house has heat on both sides, I said. She laughed. It came out of her wrecked and wet, and it was the best sound I ever heard in a parking lot. From the car window, Nora Vance called in a voice that carried clear across that lot. Dana Marie, I am 73 years old and I can drive myself home. She filed for the rest of it the Monday after the vote. 5 weeks more unpaid the balance of her 12. Her charge nurse approved it in an hour and sent back 4 words. Take it. Go slow. So she was still there on the 16th of March when the last storm of that winter came up out of Wisconsin and sat on us. 14 inches in 9 hours, and it came in on top of a thaw, which is the worst thing snow can do. Everything underneath it turned to ice. My phone went at 3:10 in the morning. Ray, Ray. She could not get the words in order. Ray, her face, the whole left side of her face is down. She can't hold the cup. She was trying to hold the cup, and where is she? Kitchen floor. I put her on her side. Ray, I called it in 20 minutes ago and they are not here. I was already pulling my boots on. When did she last look normal to you? 2:40. I heard her get up. I heard the tap run. I looked at the clock. 2:40. I said it back to her out loud so she would know I had it. 4.5 hours, she said, and her voice went to pieces. There's a window, Ray, 4.5 hours for the drug, and it starts at 2:40. That is 7:10 in the morning. That is all we have. I'll be there. Char came up on the county line before I got the truck running. 47 do not. Char. Wexler ambulance is stopped at County 6 in Birch Hollow, and they are staying stopped. They put a rig in the ditch on that grade last February, and I am the one who called the wrecker. She was talking fast. Your board is full. The state trunk line is not plowed, the schools are not plowed, the Christmas tree lot on M37 is not plowed. Birch Hollow is priority 16 of 16, and the estimate on the sheet in front of me says 30 hours. I know what the sheet says. Ray, honey, if you take that truck off route without a work order, they will have you in a room with a union steward by Friday. Char, I said, put the ambulance on the horn and tell Kenny Sowards to stage at the junction and be ready to load. Dead air. Then 47 be advised I did not copy that transmission. Copy, Char. I got the wing plow down and I went. Dana was at the mouth of Birch Hollow in her mother's driveway with the Buick pointed out, and Nora already in the back seat and Miles in beside her holding his grandmother's head up in both hands, and the Buick was not going anywhere, and she knew it, and she was standing in the road in 14 inches of snow waving both arms at my headlights like I might not see a woman in a road. Get her in the truck. The 3 of us moved her. Nora Vance is 98 pounds, and it took 3 of us. Miles got up in the back of the cab first and got his arms under her shoulders, and he did not make one sound the whole time. That kid and I have thought about that since. Dana got up front. She reached behind the bench without looking and got the blanket, the second one, and wrapped it around her mother's legs instead of her own. Then she sat down and put her hand flat on the seat beside the shifter. I put mine next to it. What time, she said. 3:51. 3:51, she repeated. Okay, go. 4.2 miles. I have driven that road 1,000 times, and I want to tell you it took an hour. It took 26 minutes, and every one of them had teeth. The wing threw a wall of it into the ditch on the right, and the blade rode up twice on ice underneath, and I felt the back end come loose both times, and both times I got it. Dana talked to her mother the entire way on her knees, turned around backward in that seat with her hand on Nora's cheek. Mom squeezed my fingers. Good, that's good. Mom, look at me. Miles, keep her chin off her chest. That's it, exactly like that. Grandma, Miles said. Grandma, we're on the plow. You always said you wanted to ride in the plow. She never said that, Dana said, half laughing, entirely crying. She said it at Christmas, Mom. You are making that up. I'm not. She said it to Ray. She did. She had. Standing at her own storm door in December with a plate of cookies she had no business bringing out to a man in a running truck. At mile 3, I came off the accelerator. Half a second. Maybe less. Just enough that the engine note dropped and my hands went tight on the wheel and I could feel the whole bank on the left side of that road out there in the dark under 14 inches of new snow. Dana turned her head. She did not ask me. She did not say one word about it. She just took her hand off the seat and put it flat on my thigh and left it there, and I put my foot back down and we went. Kenny Sowards had the rig turned around at the junction with the doors open and the box lit up like a surgery. 240, Dana said before they had the cot out. Last known normal is 0240. She's on lisinopril, she's got a wrist fracture and a cast, no anticoagulants, no bleeding history. 240, Kenny. Munson's holding a bed, he said. 41 minutes. 34 if you take the Beitner cut off. Then get in, he said, and she got in. Miles stood in the road in the light of my headlights with snow coming down on his bare head, 14 years old, and he watched those doors shut and his whole face broke apart at once and he started sobbing, standing straight up in the road with his arms down at his sides. I got out and I put my arms around him and he grabbed onto the back of my coat with both fists. I got you, I said. Is she going to I got you, bud? We stood there until the taillights went around the bend. I put him up in the truck and I turned back onto County 6 and I still had 14 miles of state trunk line to open before the buses ran and I got about 400 yards. Then headlights came up over the rise high and square and set wide. County Silverado. Doug Kessler pulled across the middle of that road angled so I could not get around him without going in the ditch. Vamot matsich no miles dave Chicago sao kingi thang hainen toi kai mot dong gai thich vi sao tang beko matemoi sao tang bakail de kong tak vadoi koi tuan. Mot kau kong lam nang bai. Task 9. What it cost. Doug got out and left his door hanging open and walked up to my window in a Carhartt over pajama pants. Turn it off, he said. Doug, I've got 14 miles of trunk line, Ray. Turn the truck off. I turned it off. The quiet in that cab was enormous. Is she alive? They took her from the junction 11 minutes ago. He put both hands on my door and leaned on it and dropped his head and he stayed like that a second. Okay, he said. Okay, now you listen. I am taking this unit and I am running your board myself and I have already called Vern in to take the second truck. He straightened up. You are going to get in my Silverado, which has heat on both sides, and you are going to drive that boy to Munson. Doug, do not. They'll have my job. They will have some of it, he said. Char logged an unauthorized route deviation at 341 because she is legally required to, and she cried on the phone doing it. That is going to the board and I cannot stop it and I am not going to lie to you and say I will try. He pointed a finger at my chest. But I have been signing off on your Birch Hollow mileage for 11 years, son, and that is going in the file too, right underneath it, and let them chew on the both of them together. Miles was in the passenger seat of that Silverado with his hood up watching us. Go on, Doug said. And Ray, she rode down there in a plow at 4 a.m. Whatever else comes of this, you tell that boy that is not nothing. They gave her the drug at 4:52. 2 hours and 12 minutes after last known normal inside the window with time left over, which Dana told me in the hallway 3 separate times in about 90 seconds because her mouth was moving faster than the rest of her. Ischemic, she said, not a bleed. Right middle cerebral, that's why it's the left side. They got a good look on the CT, and it's not the worst one I've seen. Ray, it is genuinely not the worst one, Dana. And the door to needle was 31 minutes, which is honestly excellent for a rural Dana. She stopped. Then she folded straight down onto the floor of that hallway with her back against the wall, and she pulled her knees up and she cried like something coming apart at the seams. Nora Vance did not die. I want that said plainly. She kept her speech, and she kept every bit of who she was, and she lost most of what her left hand could do and about a third of what her left leg could do, and at 73 you do not get those back the way a 40-year-old does. 3 weeks inpatient rehabilitation in Traverse City, then the rest of her life. They handed me the letter on Thursday in Doug's office with a union steward sitting in the chair beside me. Administrative suspension, no pay pending an investigation into an unauthorized deviation from an assigned plow route. 6 weeks was the number the steward said out loud. He said it kindly. Dana was standing in the parking lot of the county garage when I came out. She had been at rehab since 7 that morning. She had that gray color people get. How long, she said. 6 weeks, they think. Unpaid. Yes. Her jaw went. She looked out across the lot at the salt pile. It's my fault. It is not. Do not do that. She turned on me and her eyes were streaming and she did not touch them. Do not stand there and be gracious at me, Ray. I cannot hold it today. Then what do you want me to say? I want you to be angry about something. Once. Her voice broke wide open. My mother has one hand. 6 weeks of your pay is gone. And you are standing in a parking lot telling me it's fine, the exact same way you stood in that hospital hallway in January and let me call you 11 hours late. Dana, you didn't do it for me. She said it fast, like she had been holding it behind her teeth. That's the thing I keep landing on. At 3 in the morning, you didn't take that truck out for me. You took it out for your father. I happened to be in the seat. That went into me a long way. And I want you to know exactly what I said back because I have never been proud of it, and I am not going to clean it up now. You came up here for 7 weeks, I said. And in 7 weeks, you did more than you did in the 3 years before it. You didn't come to save her, Dana. You came to stop feeling guilty about a phone call. She went white to the lips. Then she nodded twice, very fast, and got in her car. She took Miles back to Chicago on the 8th of April, schooled her apartment a lease she had to break or renew a hospital that wanted an answer about her position. She texted me twice about her mother's discharge plan and both times signed it Dana like a form. 22 days. On the 23rd, I got in my truck at 4 in the morning out of habit and I had nowhere to be and I sat in the driveway with it running and then I put it in gear and drove 7 hours and 40 minutes to Chicago. I had never done that for anybody. Not for Sheila, not once, and she asked me twice. It was a third-floor walk-up off Kedzie and I stood at that door for a while before I knocked. She opened it in scrubs with her hair coming down. She looked at me and both her hands came up over her mouth. You drove, she said. Yes, you drove 7 hours, 7:40. There was road work in Gary. Ray, her chin went completely. Ray, I said the worst thing I have ever said to another human being. You said a true thing. So did I. That's why they both landed. Don't be reasonable at me. I swear to God I'm not being reasonable, I said, and my own voice went. I'm standing in a hallway in Chicago because I could not stand another day of the county not calling me and you not calling me, and I did not know which one was going to kill me first. She got a fistful of my shirt and hauled me inside and got her arms all the way around my neck, and she said something into my collar that I did not catch and did not ask her to repeat, and from somewhere back in that apartment a 14-year-old voice hollered, "Is that Ray?" The sign went in the yard on the 9th of May, and she drove it in herself one-handed with a rubber mallet. Mother said Dana on speakerphone from Chicago. Put the mallet down. It is in. It is crooked and it is in. You could have waited 9 days. I have waited 11 years, Nora said. Raymond, is it crooked? Yes, ma'am. Good. People slow down for crooked. It sold in 19 days to a couple from Grand Rapids who wanted a summer place and did not care what the county did about the road in February. After the mortgage payoff, she cleared $141,000, which is her money out of her house with no gift and no penalty, and nobody to ask permission from. She rented the apartment over Kessler Hardware on Main. 2nd floor, 2 bedrooms, an elevator, the building put in during the Ford administration, and a window that looks straight down at the 4-way stop. I can see the entire town, she told me. I know everything now. It is a terrible power. The county brought me back the 3rd week of June. Written reprimand in the permanent file, 40 hours of unpaid suspension already served, and a sentence I have read maybe 400 times. The commission notes the driver's 11-year record of unlogged service on the route in question. Doug slid it across his desk and would not look up. That last line, I said. I wrote that line. Doug, sign the thing, Ray. And I asked in writing to have Birch Hollow removed from my route entirely. There was nobody living up there anymore. There has not been a plow up that road since. Dana took the trauma coordinator position at Munson on the 4th of August. I want to be clear about this because she was clear about it and she made me repeat it back to her. 16 years in a Cook County emergency department had eaten her alive. The Traverse City job was $11,000 more no night rotation, and Miles was starting 11th grade and did not want a 4th high school. Her mother was 41 minutes away instead of 400 miles. I was on the list, she said. You were not the list. I know it. Say it back. I was on the list. I was not the list. "Good," she said, and kissed me in the parking lot of a U-Haul. That first fall was ordinary, and I would not trade a day of it. Miles put a transmission in a Ranger in my barn. Nora ran a book club out of the hardware store that met on Tuesdays and became within 2 months the most powerful institution in Wexler County. In October, the 4 of us drove up the peninsula to see The Color, and Nora made me stop at every scenic turnout, all 9 of them, and complained about the light at each one. She gave me the envelope on Thanksgiving. She had waited until Dana went into the kitchen. It was a plain white envelope, and her handwriting on the front said Raymond, and she pushed it across the table with 2 fingers of her good hand. "What's this? Open it." It was a receipt. $200 deposit, Sable Creek Township Hall, the main room, Saturday the 20th of June. My throat shut. Mrs. Vance. "The room book's 18 months out," she said. 18 months, Raymond. I have watched you carry a ring around in that coat pocket since the 4th of September, and I have been extremely patient. "How do you know about you put your coat on the hook by my door every Sunday?" she said. "I am 73. I am not dead, and I was a librarian, and I catalog things." Dana came back in with the pie and stopped because I was standing up. "What?" she said. "What?" "Your mother," I said, "has booked a room." "She has what for June?" I said, and I got the box out, and my hands were going so bad I could not get the lid, and Nora Vance said from her chair quite loudly, "Left thumb, and I got it." Dana put the pie down without looking where. "Ray." "I'm 47 years old," I said, "and I have been alone in that house for 9 years, telling myself I stayed because I'm loyal. I wasn't loyal, I was scared. You got in a cold seat in the dark, and you did not once ask me to be different. Ray, I don't want to be a man somebody has to ask twice. Marry me." She got down on the floor in front of the chair, both hands over her face, sobbing, laughing, ruined, and she got out a yes about 4 times before any of it came out in one piece. Nora Vance sat above us with her ruined hand in her lap and cried without one sound, and did not wipe her face, and did not have to. The following January, I came around the bend on County 6 at 4:50 in the morning with 14 miles of trunk line ahead of me. The mouth of Birch Hollow came up on the right. Seasonal road sign, reflective county issue, snow across it clean as a bedsheet. I went by it. I did not slow down. My father was still up there in the way that they are always still up there. But he was not waiting on me anymore, and I had somewhere to be at the end of the shift. There was a woman asleep in the passenger seat with a blanket around her going up to Munson with me for the 7 o'clock. I never did fix that heater. She would not let me. Here is the only thing I know for certain after all of it. I spent 11 years getting up in the dark and driving out to a road nobody was watching, and I called it duty, and it was really just grief with a plow on the front of it. It kept me busy. It kept me exactly where I was. Love does not ask you to keep the vigil. Love asks you to put the truck in gear and go somewhere you have never been at 47 with the heater broken on one side. And the people who love you best are the ones who never once ask you to be someone else. They just get in and sit down and wait to see if you will. If somebody in your life has been quietly holding something up for you and you never knew, tell me about them in the comments. I read every one. And if this one got you, leave a like and subscribe, and I will see you on the next road.